Our view with the partnerships has been clear. We said to the CEO, we do not want to have partnerships that we sign MOUs and MOI, what's the other one? MOUs and MOAs. I get confused with these acronyms. But we don't have to sign these documents and put them on file number 13. And they mean nothing after that. We want partnerships that must translate to something. When we went to Cape Town with Mr. Fries and the chair of SETA and the CEOs, to what we saw, we agreed we have to make a commitment to uplift the communities that we visited. We have lived to that commitment as MICT. And we call on everybody who wants to be in partnership with us that they must know that our partnership is not just about the documents that we sign and we feel good about it, but what does it make and how does it translate to improving and changing the lives of the people by providing them with the necessary skills to see them through to the next day. The board has taken a view that these partnerships have to be practical. In other words, that we must have tangible results that must come out of these partnerships. A good example would be the partnership, amongst others, with Samdra. Samdra is an organization that represents small businesses in the area of mobile device repairs, distribution, and probably think they should be thinking about retail as well. What we have done, we have developed a qualification with them, because the intention there is that as opposed to have these mobile devices repaired by people that probably at times we do not know whether they are properly qualified to do these repairs, we should create an opportunity for the local people and train them to provide the service. Currently, we know that if you walked to a shopping center, shopping mall, or anywhere, and could be downtown, and you wanted your device to be repaired, in all likelihood, it would be somebody from another country. And they're not doing wrong, by the way. And I'm not saying they are wrong for providing that service, because they saw a gap in the market and they seized that gap. They're repairing this, they are from Pakistani, they are from this and other places. And as I say, South Africa, of course, is not a xenophobic or well, it's not supposed to be xenophobic, and it's not supposed to be racist. So we welcome everybody. But then there is a problem when the locals are unable to provide this simple service of repairing these devices. This is why we partnered with Sandra and developed this qualification, and it must translate to practical results. And I've been told by some in Sandra that they're going to invite me when they launch their first repair center, I think, is it called? Yeah, we want to see that, and we want to support that, and let it generate business opportunities and job opportunities for young people, women, and African youths in particular. So we are convinced that these are such partnerships that we should be proud of as MICT. This presents an opportunity to develop small businesses in the mobile device repairs and distribution and retail. As part of MICT, we are part of partnerships rather. We are also working with WNR SETA to support the side of retail, warehousing and distribution in the small businesses, particularly on the mobile devices. This is the point I had made earlier on, and we are working with the chair and the CEO of that SETA, and we believe that it's going to translate to something practical and tangible. Most significantly, our partnership with institutions of higher learning have allowed us to tap into, in a focused manner, into research for meaningful innovation that that comes out of these partnerships, and that is guiding us on where to invest for research. To this end, we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Durban University of Technology, which culminated in the launch of this Center of Excellence for focusing on robotics and artificial intelligence, amongst other things. The center itself is premised on very strong research ethos through which young people are encouraged to unleash their true potential and empower others. And I think it's a very important thing. Last week, it was last week when I was in Durban to launch that Center of Excellence with DUT. And we were taken through to see what happens in the laboratories, and young people working on solutions that are practical, that are resolving societal issues. And one of them, as an example, was a young man who was working on developing an app that deals with stock theft, because he was born from an area where there is rife stock theft, and he wants to develop an app that's going to curb their stock theft. Now, this is what is 4IR in action. It doesn't become just an elitist concept that sits somewhere in the minds of the clever, but it must respond to the question, what are the problems that are embattling the society that you are resolving? Without that answer affirmatively that you are resolving a particular societal problem, the 4IR will remain a myth to many. And we got to be practical about it. This is a first of its kind, and we are going to have similar centers of excellence with other universities. And I've been briefed that UJ, Wits, University of Pretoria, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan are also lining up to open these centers of excellence with us as MICT SETA. And this is quite exciting for me. Because it's a response to the call by the Minister of the Department of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, who has called on us to ensure that there's cooperation amongst the players in the PSET sector. In DUT and other universities, we are sponsoring research chairs that are working on developing solutions that are responding to the societal challenges. Regarding 4IR, Africa has generally been behind in the three revolutions that have happened. The 4IR has presented an opportunity for Africa not to be left behind. We are therefore expected to leapfrog to on the back of the 4IR. We are not short of brains to put the country and the continent at large on the cutting edge of developing future skills needed in the 4IR. Thus, in the current financial year, we have developed and obtained accreditation in 13 4IR related qualifications. They range from artificial intelligence, software developer, cloud computing, cybersecurity, data science, design thinking, drone piloting, and robotic processing automator. These are qualifications that are developed, and some of them have already been gazetted. Others are in the process of being gazetted, and they must respond to the issues that are facing the South African society and the economy. This has put MICT SETA in the cutting edge of the future skills. We also appreciate that MICT SETA is a transversal SETA, and as such, what we are doing would have to touch points in various sectors of the economy. We also pursue the development of new qualifications in the context of the outcomes of the National Skills Conference convened by the National Skills Authority, with the theme promoting innovation and digitalization in the skills development ecosystem and contributing towards a responsive future of the inclusive growth. In the year that's under the review, as we report here, we have spent just over 800 million in the skills development programs through mandatory grants and discretionary grants and bursaries as well. That's touching above 10,000 learners in just 1 year. Some of these were placed in, some of these learners were placed in learnerships, others in internships. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to pause and express our heartfelt gratitude to our key stakeholders, the levy-paying companies. It's very important. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing if the levy-paying companies were not doing their national duty and paying levies. Probably I need to say this, I'll come back to it. I need to say this to the levy-paying companies. That's why, as the board, we've taken a posture that managing the finances becomes a critically important thing. This is not our money as board members, nor is it our money as employees, but this money is drawn from the levy payers, and therefore it must be seen what it is doing, and it must do what it is supposed to do. And I'm glad that the board that I work with understands that and supports that view. So you can rest assured that the levies that you're paying, they're in good hands. I think it will be remiss of me not to also thank the organized employers and organized labor, without whom the challenge of steering this mammoth ship would be ever so harder. And I think we appreciate these constituency organizations and their contribution. We are having very good partnerships with them, and we appreciate that quite a lot. And they make our work a bit more easier to carry. We would like to appeal to all stakeholders to understand that we do not, as a SETA, have unending resources. And I'm saying this because there is a tendency to think SETAs have got unending amount of money. You got a deep pocket that has got no flow. You can dig and dig and dig. No, we only have this much. And therefore, we are unable to do everything and anything that people expect us to do. And we need to be realistic about this and be honest to you, to suggest and indicate to you, we will not be able to do everything that you expect us to do. But we'll try our best to do the best that we can. And I'll come back to some of these points a bit later. Linked to that is that we have picked up a trend that is concerning of beneficiaries in the DG grant space who are presenting themselves in different companies, where you see one director coming through different companies, 4 or 5 different companies, and they expect to be granted or access to the discretionary grant. But if in so doing, what you actually are doing, you are actually reducing the ability to stretch the rand and reach more people, because one individual has found it in themselves to come in different forms and faces, and yet is the one person. It's a worrying trend that we are picking up. And I'm sure the employer organization and employee organizations would agree that this is not necessarily what we would like to see. This is unfortunate, and we are handling the matter though. We also have picked up that there are some training providers who fail to pay learners, which is an act that may not be consistent with the provisions of the SLAs. We expect that once we agree that we have allocated an SLA to a training provider, there must be performance in payment of these stipend to the learners. Unfortunately, we have had situations where our online submissions, if I address the next point, where our online submissions have had challenged in the past. We took a decision to extend some submission dates to accommodate those who had to submit manually because the system was malfunctioning. We are improving our systems and hope to reduce such hiccups in the future. We are in the process of developing a heat map, which will help us to track the impact that we are making in geographic terms and financial terms. This is necessary for us to have a view or at a glance of what we are doing. The granular information that would be included would be gender, age, location, spending per geographic area, and other. This will help us to be responsive in terms of skills need per area. As part of our actions, we will align our operations with the outcomes of the National Skills Authority Conference that has been held recently. In particular, the National Skills Conference decided that the skills development ecosystem has to be aligned to the district development model of government that has been led by the president. This would help in developing skills that are needed per area in each and every district. This is very important because we must appreciate that the economic drivers of each district are going to be different across the country. And we can't provide the same skill everywhere because there could be different needs per area. But this can be done within the context of the 4R, which we must drive. In terms of finances, we have come from a very difficult position where we lost above 350 million due to the skills levy holiday that was announced by the president as part of the relief to companies during the COVID-19 pandemic when it hit last year. This led to us revising the targets as it was clear that we would not have adequate resources to meet our targets. However, the SETA remained financially sound and with the financial management controls in place. The impact of the reduced kitty necessitated that we take decisions to relook at the allocation of the quotas of the learners per service, per SLA. This led to some unhappiness in some cases, but it was a necessary decision. We also need to emphasize that the SETA, in line with the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, has to stretch its visibility and footprint to areas that are uncharted geographically in the country. We intend to create a demand for facilitators, moderators in areas that are traditionally not having much visibility. We want to focus on youth and women in particular in response to the ERRP requirements. Regardless of the tough financial conditions, the SETA managed to achieve more than 70% performance and an unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General. And I think that deserves a round of applause because these because the employees of the MICT SETA put a lot of hard work to it. It's difficult to see an organization that performs around 70% and still receive this unqualified audit with no findings. And I think I take my hat off to the CEO, CFO, and the rest of management for this achievement, and the board for providing support and guidance throughout this process. And this was the first, and the challenge that we have is maintaining this outcome, because we can only do much better than we have in the past. And it's a big ask, but I do believe that the board will be equal to the task. It would be a missed opportunity for me if I did not thank the Department of Education and the Minister Nzimande for guidance and support. Without such support, this would not be possible. It is important to mention that when the board arrived last year, we observed a high level of what was called overcommitment. This overcommitment basically meant that we are in the current budget paying for programs that came from the previous years, and therefore the risk that we were running there is almost an irregular expenditure because we committed in the previous years more than what we had. And I think this board took a stance that says we can't commit with money that we don't have. More so if you look at what happened last year with the skills levy holiday, and if we had not done that, we would be sitting with overcommitment. But I must congratulate management for responding to the call by the board to reduce and actually eradicate this overcommitment. And today, I can tell you, family, we do not have any overcommitment that is in our books. What we're paying is what we have committed to do this year, because we have looked at what we have as in our hands. And I think it's a huge achievement that to management. And I thank you for heeding the call by the board to do that. It must also, I must also hasten to indicate that we strive to ensure that we are responding to the injunctions of the ERRP as expected. The ERRP is stepped clearly towards ensuring that the economy would be revived through skills development. I must also appreciate the role of the Audit and Risk Committee under the leadership of Mr. Batat, and the Risk Committee under the leadership of Mr. Ngobeni. You made a valuable input, and we urge you to continue this selfless contribution in the skills development crusade. Regarding on governance, the governance of the SETA is based on the sound ethical principles with a clear separation between operational and oversight roles. This effective governance leadership by the accounting authority, the board, is based, amongst other things, on universal principle of accountability, integrity, competence, responsibility, fairness, and transparency. These principles, in turn, signify our organizational values, which form the bedrock of which the MICT is founded. In turn, management, under the resilient leadership of the acting CEO, Mr. Matumi Madibane, performed greatly under the most trying circumstances. And I think a round of applause for Mr. Madibane as an acting CEO is indeed befitting. During the year under review, we lost 3 board members under different circumstances that included natural attrition and other circumstances. We also parted ways with the CEO, hence we have the acting CEO. The board secretary also resigned, which is why we have Mr. Mukutu as an acting board secretary. We are in the process of filling all these vacancies, both in the administration and in the board. To this extent, processes of filling these vacancies are indeed at an advanced stage. To my fellow board members, yours has been exemplary leadership and consistent commitment to ensuring MICT SETA lives up to the national expectations. Let us keep up the good fight that we are involved in. The board, in line with the provisions rather of the King IV report, strives to at all material times to provide ethical leadership, which is underpinned by fighting against corruption and malfeasance. This stance is not earning us a lot of friends. We must shift the narrative of seeing SETAs as a feeding trough. And I'll tell you why we are not earning friends. I'm sure Steve, I'm not a very famous chairperson of the board. There are many who are waiting to see my back for the reasons that I've stated, because we are saying no to corruption. And we're not going to agree with that. Because if we do, we then are setting our country for failure. We don't have any other place that we're going to migrate to. We are South Africans, black and white, Indian, colored, and everybody. We are South Africans, and we're not going anywhere. And we have to preserve the future of our kids. And part of that is to insist that stop stealing. We must insist, stop thieving. We must insist, we will not tolerate that. Now, I'll come back to this. I get a bit emotional. I got fired sometime in my life when I was employed. The reason that I got fired is because I got the hawks to arrest people who were stealing money. And some who were more powerful than me decided I need to leave my job because I should not have done it. And when I was asked in some meeting with powerful people, they asked me if there's anything that I would have done differently had I been given a chance. My answer was a resounding yes. I would have done the same thing 10 times. I would have called the hawks to arrest them again. And I'm going to call the hawks to arrest them again if they're still here at this SETA. Some have said, I must be careful, my security will be compromised with these statements that I'm making. Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware my security is an issue. My safety is an issue. We know who's doing what, but we're not going to stop. We are not going to stop. This is about the country, it's not about us. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has thrust us right in the middle of innovation, as we not only had to adapt, but we had to do so very quickly. In a short space of time, we have developed a very flexible yet robust workforce who had to ensure that MICT SETA continues to deliver on its mandate, even with no or limited physical access to the workplace. So robust are our governance and financial controls that we managed to attain a clean audit during this year, as I've indicated before. The challenge now is for us to maintain this standard into the future. We have also had to jack up our systems to ensure efficiency and minimize disruption in provision of services to our stakeholders. We can only improve from here. In the coming financial years, we will put even more investment towards the development of truly 21st century information technology and communication systems geared towards positioning the SETA as a world-class player in the future skills revolution. At this stage, allow me to express our deepest and most sincere gratitude to you stakeholders. Without you, the MICT SETA will not be where it is. To our learners, we can only marvel at your determination to succeed, even when the environment had become so unbearable, but the temptation to quit became ever so great. We can only hope that your strength of mind and character will translate into much needed tangible skills and leadership for our country and economy. Let us also express our gratitude to the Executive Authority for the stewardship and guidance. Most importantly, for the accessibility and willingness to help whenever we knock at his door. Lastly, but not least, I would like to thank the Parliament of South Africa through the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education for the unwavering support. As a build-up to this AGM, you may sit, Mr. Kircha, I'm finishing up, and you'll stand up when I'm done. As a build-up to this AGM, we have been disturbed by information that we have received regarding some individuals who intended to disrupt this important gathering for reasons that are best known to them. If there are issues to be raised with the SETA, we are advising that let's engage in proper channels that to be followed instead of acting in a manner that seeks to undermine and bring the sector into disrepute. It is at nobody's interest to disrupt the AGM. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a journey that belongs to all of us, and each of one of us to soldier on both individually and through partnerships to ensure that the future of the African child is secured through appropriate education, training, and development interventions. We would also like to call upon our stakeholders to keep your financial support, and where possible, please don't hold back, but invest in other areas of our work in line with the specific mandate your respective organizations have. By virtue of the power invested in me, I then declare this AGM officially open. Thank you.
much, Chair. You will find, the Chair did touch both on the reports, and you will find on the table, so you can take those books with you and read them at your leisure. The next item on the agenda is the Chief Executive's Acting CEO's overview. Just a little note on what I can say about the CEO is that the organization is at a much better place than before him and after him. On all the other issues that were raised by the CEO, I remember when EXCO was looking at having him to act, he was very reluctant to take this position of an acting CEO. But on all the issues that we've had as challenges before he acted, I can comfortably say we are improving, whether we are talking about ethical culture, whether we are talking about an effective control environment, and more especially from the stakeholders. I likely sit at I run the ICT SMME chamber. I do get feedback from stakeholders. I sometimes also do get feedback from the employees who are saying if Mr. Matibane were to go, they would also follow. So please join hands with me in welcoming Mr. Matibane, who will give us the CEO's overview.
Thanks very much, Mr. Tiga, for the warm welcome. It's actually overwhelming, and he's right to say that I actually tried to run away from the responsibility, but because we are South Africans and we have an obligation to serve our people, I eventually had to concede and surrender. Let me say good evening, esteemed guests of MICT SETA, Program Director, Mr. Loiso Tiga, member of EXCO and the board of MICT SETA. Allow me to acknowledge and further greatly appreciate the chairperson of this board, Mr. Simpiwe Thobela, for restoring and repositioning the MICT SETA brand and driving this entity to a whole new level. Esteemed members of the board of MICT SETA, for their unsurpassed courage and for having ensured that the ship is steered in the right direction, all in the best interest of this central and most important subject called a stakeholder. Chairpersons of other SETAs present, I know Mr. Fries is in our midst. I think I also noticed the chairperson of Cheetah, if I'm not mistaken. Let's kindly give a round of applause for the two chairpersons. We appreciate your presence, chairpersons, in this important annual gathering. Our executive authority, under the stewardship of Honorable Dr. Blaydin Zimande, Deputy Minister, Minister Mr. Buti Manamela, and all colleagues from DHED, Mr. Mvalo, Mr. Tunzi, Mr. Ngaba, who are always there for us. Members of ASEO, the NSA led by Dr. Charles Nwaila, Department of Employment and Labor under the leadership of Mr. Tingesi, and the Director General of that department, Mr. Toby Lelamati, a great civil servant. And there's also one colleague from that department called Mr. Vusi Mnisi, who has been tireless in supporting us as a SETA in many, many angles. Let me thank the QCTO, the AGSA, and all staff for keeping us on our toes and holding us accountable. National Treasury and relevant Parliamentary Committee on Higher Education, Science and Innovation, our broader stakeholders from top levy-paying companies, medium our SMMEs, relevant chambers, trade unions, and professional bodies. Members of ARC under the warm and capable hands of Mr. Suleiman Badat, our dedicated chairperson of Risk Management Committee, Mr. Stanley Ngobeni, senior management in its entirety of this SETA called MICT SETA, and all managers for their tireless effort. One is grateful. Let's engage on one-on-one sessions even after this formal program, because we are not in MICT SETA for anything but to serve you as our stakeholders, for those who have had the luck to secure their RSVPs on time. One must articulate something that I liked by the program director, the issue of audit outcome, which the chairperson equally alluded to say good audit outcome is the direct result of reliable annual financial statement. Obviously, sound financial management is very imperative, and performance information that is equally reliable. Compliance to rules and regulations. You need to equally have great team players in the organization with value creation. Effective implementation of audit action plans and proper internal controls play a vital role to the so-called clean audit. Let me further indicate that you also need, beyond those that are indicated, sound controls, as in internal controls, but also a team that is tenacious against wrongdoing, as the chairperson has emphasized. And we also need sound collaboration, but also understanding legitimate and reasonable expectations of our stakeholders in the execution of our strategic objectives. As one extends warm welcome to all stakeholders, including those stakeholders whom I'm going to request that we give them a round of applause, who are external to this venue. They would have wanted to be with us, but unfortunately due to regulations, we had to limit the numbers of those who will be here. Please give them a round of applause, those who connected virtually. So as one extends warm welcome to all stakeholders in respect of the 2021 annual general meeting of MICT SETA, with great humility and appreciation, allow me, Program Director, to deliver an overview and outright indicate that MICT SETA achieved notable success in the year under review, despite challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. The impact of the 4-month skills development levy holiday, which under all circumstances was necessary, inevitable, and provided temporary relief for employers, greatly had a knock-on effect on the revenue of the SETA and reduced the discretionary grant budget for the 2021 financial year. The national lockdown restrictions impacted implementation of skills program by constituent employers and skills development providers, respectively. Garnering on operational efficiency, the SETA maintained sound improvement of internal controls, which contributed to the organization achieving a clean audit opinion. The implementation of an organization-wide digital transformation program through investment in ICT infrastructure that aims to improve, streamline, and innovate our process efficiencies across multiple divisions to better serve stakeholders and ensure excellent customer experience is our ongoing mandate from the board. It is noteworthy to mention some of the significant strides that have been made by MICT SETA during the financial year under review, and I would mention just a few. There was successful development of 11 4-year qualifications with a QCTO, which Chair has adequately alluded to. There were forged partnerships with TVET colleges, community education and training colleges, universities, professional bodies, other SETAs, as Chair indicated, like Services SETA, CHETA, WNR SETA, and other state organs. The issue of expanded SETA footprint, we managed to launch Free State Regional Office. And part of the critical mandate that we have is to also see how going forward, we are going to accommodate other provinces and see how we can merge them so that there's no province left behind in terms of being exposed to the offerings of this entity. In terms of predetermined objectives, let me indicate that MICT SETA measured its objectives or performance against 76 key performance indicators and achieved 75%. The 75% is made up of 57 out of 76 overall targets. Key to flag reprioritization of overall KPIs due to the skills development contribution levy holiday. The issue of sound and good governance enabled implementation of our mandate whilst building a resilient, agile, and sustainable organization. On the expenditure side of things, which the CFO will expand on, we paid mandatory grants amounting to 121 million, which is a 44.83% decrease from 175 million paid in the previous financial year. And this is mainly due to the emphasis that we're making of the 4-month skills development levy payment holiday implemented in response to COVID-19 pandemic. The amount spent on discretionary grants was 481 million during the third year, which is about 56.01% decrease compared to the prior year of 1920. Expenditure on administration was 101 million, which is an increase of 5.83% compared to the previous year. The UIF expenditure equaled 116,067 million for 2021 financial year. As a result of the 4-month skills development levy contribution holiday, program 3, which is at the center of all our programs and at the center of us as MICT SETA.
Okay, here we go. Okay, we're back.
Is it back?
Yeah. Reset everything.
Skills development when you call it. Yes. Allow the program director to outline some amongst the key turnaround to put in
Okay,
place
some country.
forward
It's coming through, yeah.
initiatives that will see swift implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of our programs and the automation initiatives of our business processes, but not limited to visual site vetting.
Should go a long way in enabling improved performance and timeous processing of our KPIs, but also ensuring that there's cost saving in terms of traveling to the sites, but also the costs associated with that traveling. The issue of improved oversight by the new board, working collaboratively with the ARC under the leadership of Mr. Badat and RMC, leading to a complete new era of good audit outcomes. And we're hoping to maintain these audit outcomes. Colleagues know very well that we cannot go down, but we've got to continue going all the way up. Changing the culture of the entire entity to a whole new culture of understanding and getting into customers' shoes as the direction we are moving towards. And we want to bring every single employee on board to relate better, not only with integrity, but with respect and empathy, and also high level of professionalism. The process of creating a different caliber of a civil servant is a journey, and we are on the right path with the new board in terms of transforming our employees into becoming not only champions of service delivery, but real activists and custodians of Batupele by being more client and service oriented and being on top of the game in terms of providing solutions than problems. We need selfless civil servants now more than ever, with the growing triple challenges that we all know. We cannot rebuild the confidence of our stakeholders if we don't get down to the basics and give them that reassurance through our actions. Through our actions of being more responsive, narrowing our turnaround times, and understanding some of the disparate situations they sometimes find themselves in. I often say to colleagues, you know, if you get a learner, this stakeholder called learner, to a point where they abandon the learning program, you haven't destroyed the dreams of that learner. You destroyed that learner's vision. You destroyed that learner's ambitions of wanting to be something in her life. You have destroyed even her family, because in some families, you might find that the only hope is that only learner. So even from our stakeholders, if there's one thing we must just not falter on and not default on, is honoring our service level agreements by failing to pay this critical stakeholder called a learner. If there's no learner, there's no MICT SETA. There's just no other stakeholder who is as imperative as that critical stakeholder called a learner. So let's ensure that we treat them with the right attitude, such that they complete their learning programs and continue to be joining those who are in the economy, so that we turn around the current economic landscape of this country. We will continue to ensure not only development of FOIR qualifications, but also driving initiatives towards adoption of FOIR technologies across all sectors of society and our economy to catalyze South Africa's economic competitiveness and well-being of the majority. We know what most of our people are going through. If we could see some of them we will definitely change how we conduct ourselves as civil servants. So we need to optimize efforts to swiftly implement ERRP programs such that the widening unemployment levels and poverty are mitigated. We just recently obtained board approval of the overarching digital strategy, which should address most of the system deficiencies our stakeholders experienced in the past as we move towards leading other SETAs on 4IR related issues. And we apologize to our stakeholders for all the inconveniences they had to endure during the period under review. The MICT SETA will continue to support government's various policy and planning interventions aimed at achieving the objectives of the National Development Plan. And the SETA in the 2022-23 financial year, amongst other things, will prioritize interventions in line with the National Skills Development Plan and the ERRP. So the priority in the main will be to enhance the businesses in the sector, as alluded to earlier on. The support for SMMEs will focus on sustained collaboration with key stakeholders to encourage incubation of these businesses. Additionally, the SETA will continue to bolster the rural outreach initiatives, and it will continue to ensure that women are as empowered from the business mindset as possible. There's about a total of 8 priorities. The first priority, just in their order, are key to the planning phase of 2022-23 financial year from the perspective of the National Skills Development Plan. And the first priority is support the sustainability and growth of SMMEs, entrepreneurship, cooperatives, and community-based organization. The second priority is ensure good corporate governance and a productive workforce, whilst the third priority is increase and improve labor market information that accurately identifies occupations in high demand. The fourth priority is increased focused skills development interventions for rural and marginalized communities to ensure inclusivity, whilst the fifth priority talks to increased access to and delivery of industry and occupationally directed priority programs and work placements. The sixth priority is on improvement in terms of the quality of the education that we provide to address programs in high demand within the MICT SETA sector. Priority number 7 talks to enablement of the fourth industrial revolution, whilst the last priority, which is priority number 8, talks to enablement of the growth of the public college system through sectoral partnerships in the delivery of learning intervention. As I move towards closure, Program Director, I wish we can hold hands, complement each other instead of competing against each other, and walk this journey together. Although it will not be an easy journey due to limited resources we always find ourselves in, but through great intergovernmental partnerships and sound collaborations, which we're pursuing with other SETAs. The chairperson alluded to Services SETA. There's one that we're currently finalizing with WNR SETA and CHEETA, which the chairperson of that SETA is also present. We will be able to overcome and win the battle against the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We are bound to transform the landscape of unemployment in our country, but also ignite economic growth through much needed future skills. We need to make sure that we build the kind of human capital that will respond to digital economy, ensure that we create young entrepreneurs, particularly women entrepreneurs, support businesses, your SMMEs, top and medium companies as our catalyst and breakthrough to these challenges faced by the majority of our people. So we need to transcend beyond building infrastructure and ensure development of applications impacting the lives of the majority. So the kind of learning programs we offer must encourage entrepreneurial and innovative capabilities inherent in our young people. Let me take this opportunity to thank you, Program Director, and all present, all stakeholders who would have liked to be with us under one roof, but had to connect virtually due to the regulations. I thank you from the depth of my heart and wish each and every single one of you a successful celebration of our annual general meeting as declared officially open by our dedicated and seriously solid servant of our people, Mr. Simpiwe Thobela, the chairperson of the board of MICT SETA. May God bless you all and your families with a prosperous 2022.
Thank you, CEO. Now we will come to the Master of the Purse, Ms. Tiny Mokabuki. I think it goes without saying, in most entities where you will have problems with the Auditor General of Government, one of the biggest problems would always be where the purse is. And I think that says quite a lot about our CFO. And I think as much as all the other members of the management team would have contributed in ensuring that we receive a clean audit. But I would think everyone would agree that the biggest strides would have been made in that area. Yes, you would always have that tic-tac with an efficient master of the purse, because some of us would want things to happen and happen quickly. And master of the purse must always say no here, no there, no there. And it's usually that type of relationship that you would have. But you would see the results in the outcome. As we have mentioned, these outcomes based on King 4 is that one of them is effective control. And if you do not have effective control, you are not going to get a clean audit. So please join me in welcoming our CFO to give us an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, representatives from our Executive Authority, DHET.
Sure.
It's
raining.
Our Accounting Authority, led by Mr. Thobela, our stakeholders, management team and staff, as well as everybody on the virtual platform, all protocols observed. As the Program Director has pointed out, my name is Tiny Mokabuki. I'm the CFO of the MICT SETA. I'll be presenting to you the annual financial statements of the SETA for 2020-21 financial year, ended on the 31st of March 2021. And since we having load shedding problems, and we can project, but those who have got the booklet can follow from page 21 of the booklet. Starting from our assets, our asset base ended at 403 million for the financial year ended 31st of March 2021. This is a 20% decrease from the prior year, and it's mainly attributable to a 26% decrease in our cash balances because we had to use the funds from our investment account to fund operations during the 4 months skill development levy payment holiday. This left our total cash to be at 343 million, a drop of 88 million from the prior year. Our receivables from UIF on the leadership project between the MICT SETA and UIF was 36 million. This is a decrease of 6% from the prior year because of our learner dropouts. Our accounts receivables from non-exchange transactions was fairly on par in absolute value from 1.8 million against 1.7 million in the prior year. Our accounts receivable from exchange transactions decreased by 168% from 4 million to 1.7 million because of prepayments that were released in the current financial year. The property, plant and equipment line increased by 4 million, which is 135% because of additions on leasehold improvements at the head office in Midrand, furniture and fittings, as well as computer equipment to capacitate the staff. Intangible assets increased due to ERP software costs that we had to buy and develop during the year, as well as the system development cost for our learner management system. On our liabilities, our current liabilities decreased by 16% to 150 million. The decrease is mainly attributed to a derecognition of UIF deferred revenue of 38 million, which was realized in the current year. Our accounts payables from non-exchange transactions increased by 8 million, mainly due to discretionary grants accruals, which includes a portion that relates to the payables on the UIF SETA leadership project. This left us at the end of March 2021 with a net assets of 253 million, which is 92% of this. And the 92% of this actually is 233 million, and it's sitting in our discretionary reserves that is reserved for discretionary grants projects that were committed. On our statement of financial performance, starting with the revenue side, we recognized a revenue of 763 million. 622 million of this was from 80% of skills development levies paid by the employer. This represents a 51% decrease from the levies that were received in the prior year and an absolute value of 316 million. We also received 12.7 million on interest and penalties that was levied on the skills development levies. We further recognized 116 million as revenue from UIF on the UIF and MICT SETA learnership project. And in addition to this, we recognized 11.7 million revenue as interest on our bank account as well as investment account. However, this is a 128% decrease from the prior year because of the reduction in the repo rate as well as the lower cash balances that we had during the year. Going to our expenditure for the year is 819 million, which is 25% less than the prior expenses. Our expenses is mainly made up of 116 million, which is an equivalent of the revenue that we've recorded on the UIF MICT SETA learnership project. The discretionary grants expenditure amounted to 481 million, which is a 56% decrease from the prior year. And this was mainly due to delay in implementation of some of the discretionary grants projects because of the ripple effect that was held from the COVID-19 pandemic. Mandatory grants expenditure amounted to 121 million, a 45% decrease from the prior year due to the skills development levy holiday. And our administration expenditure amounted to 102 million, which is an increase of 6% from the prior year, mainly due to the filling in of some of the strategic positions that we have within the SETA. Overall, the net asset position of the SETA remains positive. And the percentage of discretionary grants commitments that we have against the reserves is 121%. And lastly, when it comes to irregular expenditure on supply chain management, the amount for the year was 144,000, which is a 9% increase from the prior year. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all on the financial statements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFO. Now we're going to move to part 2 of the program. May I please invite the acting board secretary to join us on stage. As he's coming to join us, I'd like to invite the chair just to formally present the 2 documents, which is the the annual report and the report of the Auditor General for this financial year.
Thank you, Mr. Kika. And without wasting time, and I'm not going to be making any speech now. Once you've got the copies of the annual report and that included there is the AG's report. So first, if we start with the AG's report, my presentation is brief. Is that for the year under review, the AG has given us a clean audit, so to speak, unqualified with no findings, and I present the report to the AGM.
Thank you. Is it for noting or is it for approval? According to the company secretary, the report which is on your tables is presented for adoption. Can I please have somebody to move for adoption? If you may just say your name and where you come from. Mike, please. Oh, sorry, there are mics there on the corner.
I'm Mike Lunica from Abundant Media. I'm adopting the report.
Thank you very much. May I please have a seconder? Yes, please. There's a mic behind you.
Bonsitse Predi Motoping wa Hamsealing. Mr. P, from the Black IT Forum and ACO, we are seconding the motion.
Thank you very much. It is thereby adopted. The second one.
The second one is the annual report, and I will not go through the annual report. Both, as you were hearing my opening statement, the CEO and the CFO went through the issues that are contained in the annual report, and therefore I formally present the annual report for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I also have a mover? Thank you, sir. Please, your name is and where you come from.
My name is Andile Tlhwele from the Communications Cabling Association. I move for the adoption of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I please have a seconder? Thank you, sir.
My name is Chablan Kumalo from Muzalo Lusha. I second.
Thank you, sir. It is hereby adopted. The CEO has just, or the CFO has just also alerted me that the budget also has to be adopted.
She's to present it and then be also adopted.
You need to present it first. Please, please.
Evening again, I'll be brief. This is the annual budget for 2022-2023 financial year. In the 2021, just as a background, 2021-22 financial year, we have an approved budget of revenue amounting to 960 million for 2021-2022. This is made up of skills development levy income of 938 million, income from UIF of 8.5 million, and income on our investment of 14 million. For the 2021-22 financial year, we expect to use 123 million, which is 10.5% of levy income for administration, 187 million, which is an estimate of 80% claims against mandatory grant income of 234 million, and 509 million against discretionary grant project. We had also set aside 100 million for the digital strategy. We have, however, forecasted that the digital strategy funds may not be available in the 2021-22 financial year and have thus recosted this strategy and estimated it to be 150 million, but against the 2022-2023 financial year budget on approval from our executive authority, of course. Therefore, for 2022-23 financial year, we are expecting total revenue of just over R1 billion, which is 6% increase from the approved budget. We will utilize this against administration costs to an extent of 130 million, which is 10.5% of levy income and a 5.7% increase from the approved budget. Mandatory grant claims, we are expecting them to be 211 million, which is an estimate of claims percentage of 85%, and the discretionary grants project of 517 million for the 2022-23 financial year. And the last amount, which is on the digital strategy that was alluded by the chairperson and the CEO, we are expecting to utilize 150 million in the 2022-23 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. That is the budget. Can I get somebody to move for adoption? Thank you, sir.
Chair, before I move, I just wanted that it be noted that on page 116 and 117, there are commitments which have not been done or being executed in terms of the budget. As we move for the adoption of this budget, can those commitments also be fast-tracked? Thank you.
Is that also, you are also moving?
Yes, we are moving for the, yes, we are moving, yes.
Thank you, Brady. We also will note those comments. Sir, is that
Thank you, Chairperson and Program Director. Maybe we need to be schooled, some of us are not coming from the accounting background. We are talking estimates, and now without even knowing what would be the actuals, we are adopting the estimates. Is it the understanding, my understanding correct?
CFO? Yes, the CFO says yes, that is correct.
It is correct. Budget basically is on estimates because there are many unknowns that we will have to encounter as the year unfolds. So budgeting is basically estimating what would be in the future. Thank you.
If that is the case, then I don't have a problem of moving it, but I was concerned with the estimate.
Thank you very much. I will take that as seconded and therefore it is adopted. Board Secretary, can you please put other resolutions for adoption?
Thank you, Program. Thank you, Program Director. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good evening. As we come to the close of our program, may I just say I'm pleased that we have reached the stage of the program and the annual general meeting, the purpose of which is exactly to account to you, our stakeholders. And I think we deserve a round of applause for having reached the stage without any clashes. Thank you. I now present the resolutions as adopted. The first one we adopted was the annual financial report for the 2020-2021 financial year. The second resolution is adoption of the annual report 2020-20 financial year. The third resolution is adoption of the budget for the 2022-2024 financial year. Thank you very much. With that, I also just want to highlight for noting the priorities as presented very carefully from all the three presentations by the chairperson, the acting CEO, as well as the CFO. The following priorities, and the reason we want to share these priorities is so that as you walk the journey with us, you know what are our key focus areas. You also know what you can hold us accountable on. And those will be accounted for by both the annual performance plan as well as the budget. And before I go to that, just to add to the explanation to the question by the gentleman, the national budgeting framework, as per the PLMA, has what you call estimates of national revenue and expenditure, which is a 3-year budget cycle, which is obviously based on projections. And those estimates that the CFO spoke about are actually based on the actual revenue that we collected in the year under review going forward, and which also explained quite a lot of that there will be a 6% adjustment for that, and that is based on national social risk guidelines. Thank you very much. The priorities, the first one, as per the three presentations, is the digital strategy, which is going to be our key focus area for the next 3 years, based on the budgeting cycle and planning cycle. The second one, the acting CFO did speak about the improvement and building up of our internal capacity. So there will be improved monitoring and evaluation of the grant recipients, training service providers, as well as the learners. The third one, of course, the chairperson explains in detail about the purpose and the visions around the key stakeholders and the value we expect to derive from the stakeholder relationships. So we'll also be strengthening that. Last but not least is the improvement of the capacity of the core departments. Those are the people we interact with as funders and as training providers on a day-to-day basis. So as we gear up for the next, for the following financial years, the decision has been taken by the accounting authority that additional capacity should be added in order to service new service providers better. Thank you very much.
I know it's not in the program, but we've decided with the chair that we will open for one round of questions, both to the people online and to the people in the room. It could be anything, as long as it's within our powers to answer, we will attempt to answer it. CEO, there's a first question for you already from Mangu Magashowa from online on Zoom. It says, what happened to the absorption of the interns who are working within the MICT SETA? Can you please answer that? Sorry for putting you on the spot. I'm sure you are equal to the task.
Thanks very much for the question. The intention behind internships within state organs, whether it's government or SETA, other SOEs, is to expose learners in the main to some experiential learning of some sort, so that they are better prepared for prospective employment opportunities. It's not a guarantee of employment because of what I alluded to earlier on, the chairperson equally alluded to, limited resources that we find ourselves in at all material types of government. So it's a question of saying, as and when opportunities are available, we absorb, and obviously through a competitive and open, fair process where each and every South African will be allowed an opportunity to compete for such opportunities.
Thank you, CEO. I will take one round of questions and then we will close. I am noting the gentleman here in front. I am noting the gentleman there at the back. And when you ask the question, please tell us who you are and where do you come from. The last question is there by Mr. P. Please be short, be brief, and and ask your question so that we can answer it. And the last question, CEO, which you will answer is when is the next discretionary grant window that comes from online from Sharon. Thank you, sir. Start with your name and where you come from.
Okay, thank you. I'm Sanele Kumisa from the Black IT Forum. My question, it's based on the activities that has been taking place within the MICT SETA and obviously in general within the country. You'll have to forgive me, but I'll also submit the same question to the secretary for noting, but I just wanna quickly thresh through it now. We see that SETA has not received any adverse audit report, but there hasn't been translated into stability within the executive, within the SETA, which then creates problems for us as stakeholders in a sense that there are certain issues that we have been raising, which are a challenge. One is that we are faced with competition from international I'll say countries or service providers. I'll give an example. Servicing of IT equipment now it's outsourced to India, mainly by the financial sectors and those that operate at an international scale. We've talked about the repairs of cell phones, but we're only realizing it now because it's visible. These ones are not visible, but it's a challenge because we're having competition. And then the second part is that these things were raised when OPA and the other boards were still part of MICT SETA, but we haven't seen any movement. The other part is that there are certain activities that take place in the township, which relate to what SETA actually does. This will relate mainly to music, amapiano, abokom. There's no formal engagement with those institutions so that we can then understand how they can be capacitated, how can we spread access into that type of skill that is naturally developed by young people in township and it requires no effort. And then the third part that I would like to also highlight is vendor-based training. I see that there was issues obviously with COVID, but the challenge with vendor-based program is that it makes us as local SMME or service providers unable to compete. There was a vendor that was created at some point. We were benefiting from that vendor in terms of learners that were coming through. We were able to raise our status in terms of what the vendors want us to attain as status in terms of silver, gold, and whatever. So these are the three questions. We've raised them probably 6-7 years ago, but we see that there's been a digression in those activities. But obviously we understand the issues of COVID, but the main concern is that isn't it the instability within the executive then creating inconsistency in terms of implementing these programs? Thanks.
Thank you. I think we will answer them and we will go to I will take the last question you asked, Chair. If other board members want to field others, they will. Chair, you can start.
I think these are very strategic questions that you're raising, right? And they're very important. But my sense is that the approach that we should take now in this meeting is that, in this AGM, is that let's note the question, but the more important thing that we have not mastered and that we should probably continue to ask ourselves, how do we master it, is that engagement that is continuous with the stakeholders, regardless of who is in the office. And because MICT must continue. If tomorrow I am not there as a chair, whatever commitment that I made should continue to be picked up. But it suggests to me that the platforms of engagement, particularly with the organized constituency-based organizations, probably is not strong enough. And I think that's where we need to go to, so that we then drill into these specific issues, into these specific issues that we are raising, which of course some of them I would be saying to you, I'm not so enlightened of how far they have gone owing to the turnover of people and loss of institutional memory. And then I think, as I say, a continuous engagement that must be almost formalized, must be entered into, so that we are tracking these things all the time and not wait for the AGM only to come. Only then we raise these matters. So I think that's a commitment that we can make, board secretary, that and board members, we should and must see or look into how do we create this engagement of dealing with these strategic issues and continue to track them. It could be quarterly because of course it's so practical that we can meet on a monthly basis, but it could be quarterly or twice a year depending on the issues and track them from there. I think that's the commitment that we can make.
I agree. Any other comment from other board members on the issues that were raised? All right. On the last issue, on the two issues, on the issue of stability, I think, as I had mentioned, it's an issue that's ongoing. Obviously, when you get in an organization, you already find some form of instability. It becomes a process.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, we do acknowledge that, and that's something that we are working on. The CEO did touch on the issues of the vacancies that are being filled. As the EXCO, we've also in the last year did a one-on-one with all managers, senior managers and managers, where we wanted to find out what are the issues, especially when in a very short space of time, we realized that there were quite a number of senior managers or strategic employees that were leaving. We are busy now getting somebody to put that report for us together so that we can act. On the last issue that you have raised, it's an issue that we've raised sharply as well. I'm from the industry, so it's an issue that we've been dealing with. We know that vendor certifications in terms of doing business, in terms of you getting the correct pricing so that you can be competitive, becomes a critical thing more than even other formal trainings. We did try last year to together with the 4IR department to see whether we can be able to even build qualifications that would embed the vendor training. We were not successful last year. We have a partnership with in Bloemfontein, one of the TVET colleges in Bloemfontein. They have successfully been able to put together a course that includes vendor qualifications. As EXCO, we had mandated management to go to that TVET college and put something together that we can then offer to our stakeholders. So that second one is an issue that we are working on. It bothers us quite a lot because we know exactly what the implications of that are. On the issue of artists, and I think you're talking about that area where we're talking about artist advertising. Yes, I think as a SETA, we've noted this in our last EXCO that we had in Durban, that most of our program seems to be focusing on ICT. What I don't know, maybe the CEO will touch on, is that because of whether they are not applying when they are DGs, I will allow the CEO to just touch on what are the reasons. But as a board, we've noted it, and we've also said to management, there is an issue here because we are not seeing the media part of MICT being attended to, or at least participating in our programs. CEO also answer that question that was raised in the DG window.
Thanks very much, Program Director. The question on DG window, it has already been presented to the recent executive committee, and the DG window will be opened in December and will run until end of January to allow all stakeholders enough time to accordingly respond. The issue of the issue of rural, township economy, and what we're doing with regards to your artists and all of that. What would resolve that issue is the power of collaborations. Actually, with MICT SETA, the engagements were ongoing. It's just a question of fast tracking the process of ensuring that the memorandum of understanding that was collaborated by was started by, or rather initiated by DHET, is finalized between DHET, MICT SETA and MICT SETA, which will properly and accordingly respond to the issue that was raised. And this professional body that the board chair alluded to, SAMDRA, which amongst other things is to ensure that in every township, in every corner of this country where there's active economy, there are sort of people who have been trained on mobile devices repairs as part of strengthening our township and rural economy.
Thank you. If we can be brief, we are running out of time now. Thank you, sir. Your name and where you come from.
Thank you very much. My name is Zamakambi from Soweto, South Africa. I've just got 3 comments on partnership. I just want to congratulate also both the CEO and the chairperson for the good report which they have just presented. My first one on partnership, I'm here to represent the film industry, the media component of MICT SETA. In the center of the city of Joburg, there is a 700 million studio which has been closed since July last year. It has been funded by IDC and NEF. But then as a film industry, we decided to open that studio. The reason why we've opened that studio, it is because that if you go to Cape Town, you might find that there is a Cape Town studio, which is always fully booked. Same applies in KZN. Our colleague Anand Singh is building a studio there. But the beauty about the studio there in city of Joburg is called Skyring, its name, is that it is closer to Maboneng, and then it's a good location to shoot some good quality films. And it can bring quite a lot of people even outside the country to capture some films here in the country. So already we decided as Soweto, South Africa, to take over that studio and to open it again, because our intention, we're just looking at the opportunity of some people who have got some films to come in Gauteng and capture their films here, so that Gauteng, same as in Durban or in Cape Town, have a place where we can have a location to shoot some films. We have already partnered with some other government departments. So my question to MICT SETA is to say, do we have an appetite in partnering in an initiative like that? Apart from that, we were also doing some 8 film festivals a year. There's one which is coming now from the 23rd to the 25th of November. It's called Soweto International Film Festival. We run about Makufe, we run about Mapubungwe, we run about Sadak Film Festival throughout the country. What we're thinking, they were thinking then beyond just, because we've got some learners from you, 10 learners, which we are training in different skills internship. But beyond just getting those 10 learners, we can be able to be exposed some other learners in that fashion. And lastly, you spoke also about entrepreneurship, which is a cornerstone of developing some jobs in our country. We are currently with FNB and NYDA. And the beauty about NYDA, they're not only training these young people, they're also giving them some vouchers to start their own business. What they've done, they've divided their funds into different districts. So as we train some young people, which some of you have been given by you, I'm talking about the 10, what happens also, they are being given some vouchers to start their own business. So on the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th, during the same film festival I was talking about in Soweto, we are.
Can I ask you to?
No, I'm wrapping up. I want, when you answer just all this. We are doing some graduation there. We're inviting everyone who's here. But my question to you, MICT SETA, do you have an appetite to partner in the project like this one? 1, film tourism. 2, in the entrepreneurship, which we're doing. And lastly, the third one is the film festivals. Thank you very much.
Or CEO.
I think the question of partnership, of course, I think let's take that as as a suggestion and a comment that we should, outside of this meeting, engage through the CEO. I'm sure the board members would tomorrow convene a board meeting and suspend me if I were to stand up here on this podium and say, yes, we are taking that partnership. So we'll not do that. But I think let's engage with the CEO as a matter of urgency and take you up on that discussion. Of course, it's an interest area, the film side of things, from the side of MICT SETA, and we don't have adequate footprint at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You wanted to add anything?
I think.
Thank you very much.
Just mainly on collaborations.
Mr. P, please, we're actually out of time already, but please be brief.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, sorry. Chair, we'd like to congratulate firstly the board and the CEO and the management team for strengthening the relationship with other SETAs, because that is also cash generating or cash cow or cash revenue in terms of inter-transfer SETAs. And we are saying that because of MICT SETA or ICT as a whole, trusts are cut across all sectors. And therefore, we need to speed up the process of having other SETAs to be in partners with us, because that is a cash generating revenue for us. That's number one. Number two, in terms of also the revenue, Chair, in our previous AGM, we proposed to MICT SETA to also look at approaching the National Skills Fund. And we're hoping that in this AGM, we'll be informed of the progress of how far is the progress with regard to that, because those are billions that are sitting there, which we should be able to tap into and be able to increase the market. What we want to do, what we are looking at is increasing the market and the revenue for MICT SETA. I mean, we know, for example, your EEP, there are funds sitting there, your job funds, there are funds sitting there. So I'm talking about billions here to supplement and ensure that the MICT SETA becomes a force and becomes a standard breaker in terms of assisting the sector and creating jobs, particularly in the ICT sector. Thirdly, Chair and the board, what is your commitment on transformation? I think, you see, we need to be clear now. We can't be every time speaking about transformation, and we have white companies getting huge allocations. No, we can't. And if the transformation of the sector must start with the board, we have transformed the board. The board is a pure black, transformed. Okay. And what is good with the board, it advances a corrupt-free motion, which the chair is very passionate about, and we support you, Chair. And therefore, in terms of the transformation, we want to see that transformation going down. I mean, we can't be having one company having 1,000 or 500 learners or 1,000 learners, and one SMME is given 5 learners. No, that's not where we are. We need transformation, Chair, and the board. Let's transform. Okay, let's transform. In terms of MICT SETA, MICT SETA has not clearly given an indication. How do they assist SMMEs? What is their commitment? What is it that they're doing to assist SMMEs? I'm speaking as an SMME, but also on behalf of other SMMEs that are not here. That what is it that you're giving? In terms of your supply development, how much have you spent? In terms of your enterprise development, how much have you allocated? Okay. And in terms of the retrenched workers, what role have we played as MICT SETA? As SMMEs, we are consulting with the retrenched, we are trying to give them business, but what role are you playing? How are you assisting us to assist to create jobs for those that have been retrenched? Okay. And I mean, there's money sitting with CCMA, which is a cash revenue for MICT SETA. CCMA says, if you retrench, you must skill, you must do that, we've got this budget. Why can't we have that relationship with the CCMA and generate that cash? I mean, we are proposing areas where MICT SETA should increase its capacity in terms of revenue. Because with revenue, with money, things happen. But then, and lastly, Chair, I'm going to That is my last point through, Chair. Yeah, that's my last point. Yeah, through you, Chair. Chair, this one is a bit. I'm not expected to respond or to reply now. Probably the board will need to meet to discuss the resolution or to answer in that one. Chair, in 2018, 2019, MICT SETA did not spend a cent. Funds were committed. 2019, 2020, a portion of those funds were committed. 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, it was COVID. So majority of funds are always committed. Now, what we have experienced with various SETAs is that they commit funds just to get a clean audit, which is fine, because then you have given Mr. P 20 or 500 years and just for the audit. Once the audit has passed, you bank that process until next year. Okay. So I looked at your reports now on page 16 and page 17. And on page 16 and 17, it then now again indicates that there's about 600 million rand, which has been committed, but not yet have been So, Chair and the board, our appeal here is you're going to get people who are going to be frustrated. Yes. Why? Because since 2018, they've been allocated, 2019, they've been allocated, 2020, they've been allocated, 2021, they've been allocated. Definitely for sure. They also have a life, just like you. They want to earn a salary, just like you. They want to provide for their families, just like you. So let's all work together in terms of how best can we resolve the issue of commitments of funds which are not being implemented. We are here to support. As the industry, we are here to support. And we are saying this thing of SMME not even being allocated a percentage. We want at least 50% of those funds. That's why we've been giving you suggestions where we could tap into billions more so that SMMEs could grow, so that those funds are sitting there and are waiting for you. And when we've got those connections, we can even give it those connections. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. P. CFO, you'll answer the questions that pertain to yourself. Okay, thank you, CEO.
Thanks very much, Program Director, and thanks, Mr. Prady. The issue of revenue, as proposed, and he's very correct. Indeed, last year he raised that issue as sharply as he's raising it now. And let me give you the assurance that MICT has made quite a remarkable progress with National Skills Fund. We had a session last month with National Skills Fund pertaining to our proposal, and are waiting the outcomes after having solicited a few inputs in respect of the proposal that we have made. And then we also have a sort of, I would say, dealing with the Department of Labor, actually Department of Employment and Labor, wherein we are currently implementing quite a large scale of learning programs, some of which will be coming very soon. It's something that would happen probably before end of January. The issue of transformation mandatorily, large firms are expected and bound to spend their leviable income to train Black people. And if you look at even our current spend, a larger part of our discretionary grants was allocated to SMMEs, and that will be displayed in time as we finalize our and close our books in terms of reporting for this current financial year. You're going to see that we've spent far beyond what we have spent in the past years just on SMMEs. Thanks.
Thank you, CFO.
I think just briefly on the commitments, we are actually spending. I think it's an issue relating to timing. on what you are seeing as commitments versus when it actually does materialize on the income statement. So it's an issue of timing. You'll find that we've got 12-month projects like learnerships, whereby you will commit now in April, for example, and it runs over a whole entire year. So hence I'm saying that it's a timing issue, but we are definitely making sure that we do make an impact and spend the money that has been allocated to us. Because if we don't spend it, that means that we are not doing what we should be doing as a SETA. However, the facts are saying that we are. Thanks.
Thank you. Do any other board member want to tackle some of the issues that were raised by Mr. P? Board members? Mr. P, on the issue of transformation, I think as this board, I remember even in the first meeting when we were presented with the target for our BEE target, I think it was for, if I'm not mistaken, CFO. Our first reaction, we said we are not going to tolerate that. We are a government entity and we want to be BEE level 1. And there's been strides to make sure in every ExCo that we achieve that status of BEE level 1. On the SMMEs, I thought the CFO will answer that. Most of our budget does go to SMMEs. Very few big companies get too much a big slice of the pie. If you were to go and look at them, you will find, if I'm not mistaken, almost 80% of our funds do go to SMMEs. Obviously, BEE cannot be to the exclusion of our white citizens. Our white citizens are also citizens of this country who have equal rights with everybody. Follow the act as it is and make sure that we do advance transformation. I think I've covered everything, but Chair, can you please take us through? We are running out of time badly to closure and the way forward.
I've got nothing to do with this burner falling. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the evening. It's encouraging when stakeholders engage you and raise critical questions. Some of the questions might not necessarily be comfortable, but to the extent that they propel us forward, they are indeed welcome and they are necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have convened the AGM if we had hoped that you would only come here to pat us at the back and tell us that well done. Nothing else to look at doing better. So thanks for the questions. Most of these questions that are raised here are process issues, not to be necessarily decided and finalized here. It is incumbent on us all to accept that this AGM comes once a year. But in between, what happens? The other responsibility is with the board members. The SETA's boards, and I'm the only one who does not come from a constituency. All other members are constituency-based board members. The thinking behind that is that the members coming from particular constituencies have and must champion the interests of the constituencies that they come from, be it they labor or employers or community organizations. And that has to be reflected in our targets of performance, whether we are addressing the transformation and SMME and so on. But I think it's also interesting, it's also important to indicate that transformation is not necessarily a mere replacement of one color by another in terms of the skin color, but it's a mutually beneficial process. And no white person should be scared of transformation, because indeed they are equally South Africans.
Yes.
But it's also true that the injustice that is there is unsustainable for all of us in the country. If Black people continue to sit in the margins of the economy, it's not sustainable for anybody. Black, white, Indian, colored, and whatever color, pink, yellow, green. So it's in the interest of everybody to engage in this process of transformation. I'm passionate about that matter of transformation. I always argue that if we don't do things that are right and that are within the legal framework that we have to do to transform each and every sector of our economy, history will judge us harshly. Black, white, Indian, colored, pink, green, and whatever, doesn't matter. So all of us have to actively take an interest, regardless of this skin pigmentation, onto transformation. Right? So I do want to encourage us not to look into transformation as a color issue, but rather as an issue that must address the fundamental problems of economic exclusion of a certain group of people which were excluded on the basis of the color. So we are committed. I cannot leave this SETA. I've got a 5-year term and I'm going to finish it, I can promise you. In that 5-year term, when I leave, this sector, which I knew nothing about, must be totally different. In that, those that are in the margins must have been thrown into the center to participate equally with the others that have been there before. And I think that we can do that harmoniously as South Africans without necessarily fighting with each other. So we need to mature for this. We need to grow for this. I don't know if you understand me. So that's what we're going to be pursuing for the year that's ahead. The other area that I need to address as I conclude the day, because I'm between you and your dinner now, is that stability, Predi, is critically important. And my brother here from BITF, Sandile, yes, Sandile, you're correct. Stability is very important. Sanele. Stability is very important. That's why I'm saying I'm going to finish this term. Because that stability is important. You can't afford to have this board chair today and then tomorrow there's another. Before this one finishes their term, they're out and you are told by the next chair that, hey, the last chair that was here did not brief me properly about this matter. It doesn't help you as the industry. And therefore we must have this stability, both at governance and at administration level. And we are committed to do that. And that would be seen by the number of positions that we're acting. When we arrived here last year in April, it was Hollywood. There were so many people acting. And I couldn't believe it. That why is everybody acting? That includes the CEO that was acting because he was on a short-term contract. And we were one of the first sitters to move for appointing the CEO on a permanent basis because we were actually worried exactly about that thing of stability. And this acting CEO, acting as he is, he knows as he finishes his acting, he must leave others not acting. That's a performance target that he knows that he has to report on a monthly basis. How far are we going in ensuring that we stabilize the organization? The other part that we're dealing with, which is important to you as stakeholders, is that we have seen a bit of an attrition in the organization, people resigning. Particularly before February this year, the staff turnover was terrible because the culture at an administration level was not the culture that was what you would have wanted in an organization. We say Let's create an organization that makes employees proud to wake up and go and serve at MICT, not feel compelled to go because my supervisor is going to ask me, where am I? But they must feel, I spend most of my time there. Let me go and give my bit into the country. But we as board members, we've got a responsibility of creating that environment for people to feel that they have to come to work. But as we do that, we also say, we will not tolerate malfeasance and maladministration and similar. We can't push for stability regardless of whatever else. There are principles that we must say, it goes this far and no further. Define yourself as part of this organization in the way you behave. And if you do not, then exclude yourself from the organization. We can't then say, because we want you to be to achieve stability, acting CEO, even if you are acting in a way that is contrary to the beliefs of the organization, we want to maintain you. That's disservice. So we will not do that. So we must balance the culture of the organization and stability, keeping the right employees and stability. So we must find that balance, and we'll continue to do that. Lastly, the industry. We're here to serve an industry. It's not about us. So we had an initiative last year with the CEO of engaging the top how many? Top 20 or top 30, I can't remember, levy paying companies. We said we must engage them so that we understand what are their issues. We've done that. Now, the next step, and it's not in order of priority, but the next step is to consult the entire industry to understand the issues that Sanele you are raising and the issues that Predi is raising and the issue my brother there from the film industry you are raising. So we must engage the industry. I've been toying with an idea of creating these chambers that are based on particular subsectors of the industry, so that we're able to be specific on which issues we are addressing with who, and be able to say how do we measure the progress thereof. And I think with those things, the CEO, and I've been pleased with the manner in which he's carried himself. When we make those decisions, he is able to pick up on them and follow them up so that we get these things done. And I'm sure this engagement of the industry to deal with these issues, and including the issue of possible funding elsewhere. And I'm sure the CEO did tell you that, we are working with the National Skills Fund, and we are almost at the verification level, and that they are checking this and other for us to get that. And elsewhere, there are other partners that we're talking about, but we're not at liberty at this stage to disclose that. Discussions are still going with others, with other parties where we could get funding. Indeed, we must expand the revenue base if we are to make an impact. With that, I think we must agree that today has come to a conclusion, and it's been a very successful AGM. And I thank everybody for taking time and being here and listening to us, and even listening to people from rural areas who know nothing about what you're discussing here. But well, thank you so much. And you guys have a lovely evening. And I think Mr. Chicha is going to have a few things that to announce and what's going to happen from here on. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are closing. Thank you very much for having stayed with us throughout the AGM. You've been a fantastic crowd. Thank you very much to the guys who are online. I've been watching them. Very few of them have left. People have said through. As I've said, your questions, I will ask Kabi, so I'm not sure whether I'm seeing her, to take the questions that were raised online. We will answer them through management, and those that need the board will come to the board, and we will send those questions to everyone who attended. We have a list and email addresses of everybody who has attended, and we'll send that list if we can. We'll even put them on the website as part of our report. I'm sorry that we couldn't answer all the questions. And also some of the things that the chair has just raised now, the issues that you've raised, so we will take them and we will go through them and feedback even in between the AGMs. With that, there is dinner served outside. If we may just go out this way in an orderly fashion, probably just table by table, we get dinner. And after that, thank you very much. Good night. Those who are driving, please drive home safely. And we will see you not in the next AGM, hopefully in some form of other engagement that we will organize. Thank you very much. Thank you, CEO.
Agenda.
Thank you, Chair.
Are we able to say thank you?
Can he come and help us here? Thank you.
Thank you very much, family.
Long?
Hello.
Thank you so much.